If you've been planning on watching Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's documentary as a part of your Christmas holiday viewing, we've got bad news for you. In light of recent events related to The Crown Season 5, Netflix has decided to push back the release date all the way to next year. If you want to know why they did this, stick with us, because we've got all the details. Anyway, let's get right into it. First things first, Netflix postpones Harry and Meghan's documentary amid the Crown controversy. 2022 is going to be the year of going after the royal family hard. Not only was the 5th season of The Crown set to come out in November, which would go into detail about all the events that led up to Princess Diana's fateful and unfortunate car crash, something which has a billion-and-one conspiracy theory surrounding it, but Netflix had also fully intended to release Meghan Markle and Prince Harry's documentary 1 month after it in December, in what some officials of the streaming giant have frequently called a royal double whammy. While this is definitely the era of free speech and cancel culture, a few events have happened this year that have influenced Netflix to make a total U-turn in their decision to release the documentary this year. Not to mention, it never even had an official release date in the first place, so while Netflix had shared multiple times what it had been planning to do, at the same time, the date the documentary actually came out had always been fluid. Now, the streaming giant has denied confirming the documentary in the first place, where some officials stated that there's never been any documentary from the Duke and Duchess of Sussex confirmed. But according to some insiders, it is likely that the documentary will eventually be released, and it's more likely that we'll see it after the tensions die down a little sometime next year in 2023. Next up, what is the documentary about? Back in 2020, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry signed a multi-year deal with Netflix, which would pay them a pretty cushy salary to create whatever documentaries, docuseries, feature films, scripted shows, and children's programming their hearts desired. At the time, the couple shared with the New York Times that their focus would be to create content that informs but also gives hope. While there isn't much information about what exactly the documentary is going to cover, the Sussexes did share a few bits and pieces about it in their interviews over the past year. For example, Meghan Markle, in an interview with Variety, revealed that they would be trusting someone with their story. So while it may not come out the way they tell it themselves, it will be going through the director's lens. She also shared in the same interview that the baseline of the documentary will be about her and Harry's epic love story, something which people all around the world connected to. She also said that the one piece of her life that she hasn't been able to share, and that people haven't been able to see yet, is their love story. Still, knowing how the Sussexes love to go after the royal family, from their infamous Oprah interview to Meghan's Archetypes podcast on Spotify, it's likely that they'll also be revealing some new insights on them as well. Insights scandalous enough to get their docuseries postponed until next year. Moving on, why did the documentary get postponed in the first place? Well, one of the major reasons is one of the most obvious ones, the passing of Queen Elizabeth II back in September. And while Meghan Markle and Prince Harry have hardly been ones to shy away from calling out the royal family, even they have lines they won't cross. Their documentary was slated to be released in December, but that's hardly 3 months after Harry's grandmother passed away, and definitely way too soon, especially considering that the two call out the Queen herself sometimes in their infamous interviews. Anyway, back in early October, sources shared that Meghan and Harry were really panicked over their series and wanted to edit out certain revelations. They even told Netflix that they wanted to backtrack in light of the Queen's passing in September. An insider at the streaming giant shared that the Sussexes were having second thoughts on their own story. Then another industry source added that the couple was now trying to tone down even the most basic language. What's more, the Crown's under serious attack. This is another huge reason why Netflix decided to postpone the documentary. It's true that Season 5 was always going to be pretty controversial, but the streaming giant recently came under serious fire after John Major, a former UK Prime Minister who is said to be featured on the series, heavily criticized the show for inaccuracies. The plotline in question? Apparently in the first episode of Season 5, Prince Charles summons Major to complain about having to wait so long to take over the throne, titled Queen Victoria Syndrome in reference to Queen Victoria's 63 years on the throne. The episode is based on a real poll that appeared in the UK Sunday Times, which suggested that Queen Elizabeth should abdicate in favor of Charles, since the monarchy was out of date. In the show, we see Charles privately agreeing with the passage in the newspaper back in 1991 that says, "An aging monarch, too long on the throne whose remoteness from the modern world has led people to grow tired, not just of her, but of the monarchy itself." Then in a private meeting with Major, the prince relates how Edward VII had been kept waiting in the wings for literally decades because Queen Victoria's rule had been so long. When Major found out about this scene, he wasn't wasn't happy. He strongly stated that no such conversation about a plot to overthrow the late queen had even taken place, and he went on to describe it as malicious nonsense. Other influential people have also spent the weekend bashing a show they haven't even seen, often relying on false rumors about what the season 5 episodes are supposed to cover. Coming up, Netflix has responded to John Major's criticism. Since Queen Elizabeth's passing on September 8th, the day Charles also succeeded to the throne, Netflix and Buckingham Palace have been extremely cautious and sensitive about both The Crown and the upcoming documentary. So after Meghan and Harry's hesitation in releasing their documentary, and then Sir John Major's criticism over the inaccuracies of The Crown, as well as the fire from a lot of other influential figures, Netflix made the decision to push back the documentary. In response to Major's criticism, a spokeswoman for The Crown defended the show, saying that they have always made it clear that The Crown has been presented as a drama based on historical events. She went on to say that season 5 of the show is fictional dramatization, where we see what the show writers imagine could have happened behind closed doors during a significant decade for the royal family, one which has already been heavily scrutinized and well documented by a lot of historians, biographers, and journalists. And they're absolutely true. One of the reasons why season 5 is so controversial is because a lot of controversial things happened in the decade it's covering, the infamous 1990s. Guys, this is the decade of Charles and Diana finally calling it quits on their marriage, of Diana airing the royal family's dirty laundry to the public without remorse, and of the Princess of Wales finally meeting her end in a car crash that has been racked with conspiracies to this date. Not to mention, Princess Anne also gets divorced in that decade, and a fire occurs at Windsor Castle. There's a lot of things to cover in just one season, and it looks like The Crown isn't holding back. Speaking of controversial scenes, let's talk about how it's going to affect the new king. After a lifetime of waiting to finally ascend to the throne, season 5 of The Crown couldn't come at a worse time for Charles, now King Charles III. It's like a special curse from Diana herself from the grave, making sure that her ex-husband finds zero peace even as sovereign. Now hardly 2 months into his reign, and so close to his coronation scheduled for May, having a season focused around his crumbling marriage to Diana is a very sensitive subject for him, especially considering that the show has hardly held back before. Season 4 heavily alluded to his affair with Camilla while Charles was still married to Diana. Almost immediately after streaming, online trolls started attacking posts from the royal family's official social media accounts. They especially targeted those posts featuring Charles and Camilla, leaving pro-Diana comments and insulting the royal couple. While Netflix hasn't balked at releasing controversial content about other real-life people, Dahmer, it is stepping into uncharted territory going after the King of the UK hardly 2 months after he's ascended to the throne. And while the documentary has been postponed, we're not sure whether Harry still plans on releasing his memoir this year or not. We'll just have to wait and find out for now. And that's a wrap of this video. Are you excited about the upcoming season of The Crown? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.